Sponsored by Taylor Freelance, Rainier Ballistics, Hodgson Powders, and JPL Precision.
So everybody, welcome to this week's episode of PowerFactor. You'll probably recognize the setting that we're in here. Ironically, we're in the exact same position, setting, everything, except for Larry.
Plus one guy.
Yeah, plus one guy from the very first episode. And the news that we're breaking here in this episode is that this is our last episode that we're doing. So this is literally the end for PowerFactor. I know.
Don't believe it. It's a lie.
Yeah. Which is not to say that we're not going to continue. I mean, the YouTube channel will be up, the website will be up, the Facebook channel will be up, and we're still going to continue to maintain all of that. We're going to get questions, I know, probably for the next 10 years or more.
Yep, we still plan to interact with our viewers.
Yeah,
fans.
so again, if you have any questions about anything that ever pop up or needed, input on anything,
But if you want to know
nothing
why
has
there's
changed
6
from that.
episodes about the new IDPA reloading rules.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead and write to us. So anyway, we thought we'd take this opportunity to kind of go over the last 6+ years that we've been doing the program. Some different, various bits, topics, ideas, and everything that we've experienced. And it's kind of funny because we were picking around here and just thinking about what we were talking about. And Rick brought up the whole deal at old green screen days. And it's kind of funny when we first started the program, we thought, wow, we're going to be really high tech. We're going to have like a green screen background. And we'll be able to make use of all that. And it'll be really cool. And we did that for a while.
It was cool for a long time, yeah. It was probably just a lot of work, though.
I always had visions of an MST3K style episode.
Yes. That's true. We did talk about that. Yeah.
And it never happened.
Yeah.
Silhouetted hosts.
We definitely, we were talking about doing that, of having something where our heads were turned. And that was just when you and I were doing it, our heads were, the back. And we actually almost spoofed something like that. I think we did like a Hawaii episode or something like that. We were simulating.
Yeah, we were supposed to be on the beach, and then Luke interrupted us and put us back to work.
Yeah.
But and that's interesting too. I think we had the format kind of set initially of if it was an episode we were just talking about shooting, we were sitting here in front of the camera, and then we had the on location episodes that were at the range. Match reviews, shooting demonstrations and tips and whatnot. And I always thought it was kind of interesting. We got some, let's say, feedback about episodes where all we were doing was talking.
Yeah.
Why are you guys just going to talk about that? I just thought, well, if it's there's some topics that I don't think you need. I mean, if you want to see a demonstration of fill in the blank. There's probably 1,000 YouTube videos out there already.
Right.
And I think a lot of the topics that we talked about, you didn't need to see it done to know what we're talking about.
Right.
If we're going to talk about, sight alignment or something, it'd be nice to have a little graphic, that shows the front sight and the rear sight and how they're supposed to be aligned with the bullseye. But I just think there's stuff like rules interpretations and stuff. You don't need to see a video of me on the range violating the rule. I can just tell you, don't do this. If you trip and fall and sweep the crowd, you're going to be disqualified without a video of me doing it. So. Not that it's ever happened before. Yeah.
Well, that's actually one thing that I can say that I'm proud of.
Never swept the crowd?
Never got DQ'd.
Oh, never.
Man.
In the nearly 20 years of IPSC shooting that I did, I never once got DQ'd, ever.
That's good. So what about the old saying that it says there's two kinds of people?
I know people who have been DQ'd and will be, and I guess
You're just waiting.
Well, I have actually, officially said that I never will shoot IPSC again. I could be happening again
Can't you
someday.
be I notice like in shotgun shooting, you can sweep everybody and they don't disqualify you. So what kind of things would disqualify somebody when you're shooting shotguns?
Apparently, I don't know exactly, but like unsportsmanlike conduct and stuff like that.
Okay.
I'm not really exactly sure what their definition of cheating is, but maybe like calling birds that were broken that weren't broken or something. I don't know.
Like insisting that you broke it?
Could be. I don't know.
I've
I'm not
definitely
deep
gone
enough into it
down.
to know.
I've definitely gone down a few times, slipped on something, tripped on something, kept the
I
gun
haven't said I haven't fallen.
without sweeping the crowd.
Yeah.
Those are not my DQ list, but I got a few.
Yeah, I remember once at Renton where somebody had commented about how I was falling, going over, and they said you literally shot the target as you were going over your way to the ground. It's like bam, 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 stop. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I've never, I can't remember even like I guess I tend to be erring on the side of safety if the ground is a little, like we shot a match in December, end of December, and one of the bays at Renton where the river flows through it in Bay 1, it was essentially a sheet of ice.
Yeah.
And we didn't set up a stage in there. I mean, that's the first time I remember having a match at Renton that didn't have a stage in Bay 1 because it was just ice. But we had another stage set up where it's like, okay, which way are you going to turn and which way are you going to go? And everybody was like, well, I'm going to go this way because there's solid ground that way.
Yeah.
You know, this way there's
not gonna
nothing
kill
but
myself.
ice, and I don't want to slip and fall down. So I think I've always kind of tended to, you know, if there's the safer way to do it and I don't fall down, that's the way to go.
Right.
But I know there are some people that they're always turned up to 11, and you know they're not going to slow down no matter how bad.
Spinal Tap reference.
Yeah, no matter how
That's
bad.
one thing I was going to say that you'll notice over the years that we've done is, well, so I've gone back and looked at some of the old episodes that we've done, but there have been many Spinal Tap references. There's been many references to Formula One racing and Kimi Räikkönen. Shall we do it?
Yeah.
And then MotoGP racing, which I'm a fan of. But yeah, we've had a lot. It's kind of, Kimi. There've been a lot of just little, I don't know, sort of secret, so to speak,
Easter eggs. Jokes.
Yeah. That, well, hopefully most of you have gotten. But you know, the interesting thing is that when we started the program out, the intent, and I would still say to this day is true, is the idea of educating newer shooters who are coming into the sport. And when we first started out, that was exactly what we were doing.
Yeah.
But to a certain degree, there's only there's, you know, the base fundamentals, and you and I did the IPSC 101 classes, and that's kind of to fill in the backstory. The producer, Luke, who you've never seen, doesn't exist, but anyway, we just refer to him as Luke.
Fictional character.
Yeah. Approached us about, because we were doing the IPSC 101 classes at that time, and approached us about doing this program. And we thought, well, that's kind of just a continuation of what we were doing with the IPSC 101. And we thought, yeah, we can take everything that we've done in the IPSC 101 and use that as fodder for effectively creating episodes. And that, I would probably say, lasted up until about episode 20 or 30, because that's really about how much you can do. I mean, there's only so much in terms of basics.
Target scoring, how to draw.
Yeah. And then we just kind of, all of us just came up with different ideas of, I got an idea for it, and we do it. And
no scripts.
No, and in fact, that's the one thing we have, and this may surprise you.
Shocking.
Here's a shocking fact.
Right.
This is an unscripted show.
But we've never had a script.
With no editing.
Yeah. We've talked, well, there's been a couple times where we tell it's like, okay, shut that off and we'll start over. But we've never gone into any of the, we've talked about what we want to discuss, but it's completely freeform, so.
Yeah. And I've watched a few episodes, like especially when I was talking about rules or things, and I would be watching and I would think, man, that was a great segue. You know, I'd go like I'd make some comment about something, and then it would just naturally lead to the next thing, even though there was nothing.
No script to drive.
Nothing with a bullet point that says after you mention this, then mention this. You know, and I just kind of go, man, that was good, and I kept it up for 20 minutes. You know, it's kind of funny that I've also watched some episodes, and I just kind of go, I don't even remember that one. I don't remember. I don't remember the top. I mean, I remember we had it as a topic, but I just kind of go, boy, I was able to stretch that out to 20 minutes. You know.
Yeah. So what do you think? Criticized for that before too.
Well, and speaking of just coming up with content and topics and everything else, when you guys first approached me about filling in when Caleb moved on, my first reaction was, I'm flattered, but what are we going to talk about? You guys have already covered it all. I was a fan of the show and watched every episode.
Still came up with topic ideas.
And here we are 4+ years later.
Yeah.
I had to actually check the date of my first episode because I thought it was 3 and a bit, but it's 4 and a bit since I've been a part of this show.
Well, bringing you on sort of coincided with Steve no longer shooting USPSA.
That's true.
And so
that
and the same with me. I mean, I
Right.
essentially stopped shooting USPSA about almost 5 years ago now.
I don't know if that was necessarily the reason, but that happened. It happened that
But
way.
it worked out well because of the fact that, we initially started the program out of the main focus as being USPSA and IDPA.
Right.
And then when I started shifting off to Ford Shotgun, it really became shotgun, so to speak, at IDPA.
Well, then we brought in John to do the gunsmithing segments. It started to get a little more.
Caleb had his Steel Challenge, Bianchi, USPSA, and IDPA. It was kind of the whole package.
Yeah. Right, but when Caleb went off in his direction, and John has always been, with the program doing gunsmithing stuff, and John couldn't make it here with us tonight. But we brought Doug in to do stuff on 3-gun, and do that. But then we just had the void, so to speak, in the IPSC/USPSA side of the really intent of the program, and that's where Larry filled that void, which I'm really glad he did, because otherwise the program would have turned into IDPA shotgunning.
And it's Well, and I think there was, and again, if we had not diversified, we would have probably filmed this episode 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, if we
that's
did,
a good point. Yeah.
If it was just USPSA and IDPA, and we didn't include the 3-gun episodes and the gunsmithing and the shotgunning, and it didn't start getting a little more diverse, it would have got to the point where, okay, we've talked about rules, we've talked about equipment, and I commented earlier that I could probably make a career out of just doing IDPA rulebook editions.
Interpretations.
Yeah, it's like every 2 years a new rulebook comes out. I can film a year's full of episodes of that.
Yeah.
But other than rules, the techniques and stuff are pretty timeless. You can only do so much stuff unless there's a rule change, like the carry optics. And certain things that come along, and you just kind of go, okay, I can do an episode about this. Now I have to hand load new loads for my carry optics gun or whatever. And I found that a lot of the times I would do an episode, and that would create a topic for another episode. So it does kind of feed on itself.
Right. So I had a couple ideas. I mentioned to you guys before the program the things that we might want to talk about, different subjects over the years. One of the subject that has just been an ongoing thing over all the years is the theme music that we use for the program. I think we have actually had 2 or maybe 3 official theme songs for the program.
Pretty sure it's been
but
3,
it seems like no matter what, every single one's been referenced to porn music.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure what that says of the producer
or the fans.
Who was picking? Well, that's true. That's
if every song, if every instrumental you hear
that as porn
reminds
music,
you of porn,
it might say something about what the viewers are watching. But there's been a couple deviations from that of the normal theme music, which I've kind of pushed for at special times. And this will come up again, but the episode that we did on the spoof April Fool's episode, we used the theme from the Magnificent Seven, which people loved, I will admit. In fact, they were like, yeah, use that for your theme music from here on. I was like, well, and the concern was using commercial theme music like that is that if somebody owned the rights to it, they could literally come back and say, I want you to remove every single episode that you've ever done with that music. So that's the concern. So worst case is you put one episode out and they say, I want you to and say, fine, okay, we're deleting this episode. The other one that we used, which I thought was great, was Betty White's Getting to Know You song. So I used that for the second episode that I did on the Dillon SL900 press because it fit. It was like after I'd used it for a while, I had a chance to get to know the press, so that was very appropriate.
Nice.
The other one that we did was what I refer to as the Little Voices in My Head, which we used the Magnum PI theme episode because
I don't think I know the Magnum PI theme song if I heard it.
Well, I should make my phone ring.
I'm sure you would.
Okay. All right.
So, but the point behind that is that Thomas Magnum always referred to as the little voices in his head, which always got him out of trouble.
Oh, okay.
So, but what I thought we should have used, there was a perfect case for it, is that when you and I and Caleb did the episode on carry guns in competition, and bless you. And we all had our shoulder holsters on.
Right.
It would have been perfect for the Miami Vice music.
Maybe. Yeah. And I actually thought, like in Major League Baseball, when the batter is walking out to the batter's box, they usually have an individual theme song for each player. Right. And I thought, how great would it be if every time I came on screen, there would be my theme song playing. But then I'm going to sneeze again, folks. Enjoy.
You can have it.
Or not.
Jesus. Back to the topic of songs. Every time I was on screen, my theme song would play, even if it was only for like 5 seconds. Like a little introduction, like I was coming to the plate. And again, we ran into the problem with the copyright deal.
Right.
And my brother-in-law is a musician.
True.
And
Yeah, that's right.
apparently friends of his watched the show, which I thought was kind of funny. And I actually approached him, I think, one time about writing a theme song for us, and that's all the further it went. I mean, I never got any further than that. But yeah, the theme music has always been kind of interesting, and we've gotten some interesting positive comments. It seems like every time we change the music, of course, there's the people who miss the old one, and then there's people like, oh, that's a cool new song.
Yeah.
And so I guess that's just what you have to do if you don't have popular, recognizable music as your theme.
So do you have any input on the theme music over the years?
No, not really. I've been fine with it. I think the latest.
More cowbell.
I think the current one is a bit grating, but I still like it. It's okay. But it's just some kind of music I like. So.
You like porn music?
Yeah, well, who doesn't?
Yeah, exactly. Say no more.
That's wait. So yeah, it's just funny over the years. I mean, I've always wanted to change or at least have something more really, cool in terms of the theme music. But I understand the concerns, so that's why I'd always ask the producer. So could you slip in this music for this particular episode? And he would always oblige me. And
hey, speaking of intro, fun fact for the viewers: the intro voice is my wife. In case anyone ever wondered.
I never knew that.
You never knew that?
No, I never knew that.
Since a little after I joined the show,
really?
Loke had someone, and I don't know who the original was, but Loke had someone doing like episode 100, all the way up to about 100 or so, and then we ran out.
Who did the? Here's Rick's tip.
Here is a tip from Rick. Who wants to see Rick's tip?
So a friend of the producer did that kind of, and then after 100, I think we ran out, and that person wasn't available or whatever. So I don't know if you guys knew. That's my wife that does the.
Sponsored by Taylor Freelance, Rainier Ballistics, Hodgson Powders, and JPL Precision.
Fun tip.
God, after 6 years, we finally.
That sultry voice I come to every night.
Well, we don't know anything about that.
Yeah,
so, yes.
And then there's the porn
Thanks,
music.
dear.
So we listen to the radio, the same channel on the radio in the morning in our commute, and one of the DJs are a man and a woman, and she does her filthy forecast. And so it's like a weather report, but she's like, and there's gonna be a swelling over the mountain, and everything is. She says everything like that. And I just thought, yeah, that is kind of like our show.
Yeah.
Right.
So the other thing I thought we'd talk about is how we've gotten into trouble over. There's been a few specific instances where we've gotten into trouble.
But I think that's evidence of our fame.
Well, that's true.
If nobody were listening, who would care if we had said or done something stupid that upset people?
Except the people that we got into trouble with were not so much the people, but it was the major organizational bodies that we got in trouble with.
Yes.
And the very first one is the April Fool's episode that we did on the IDPA rulebook, which is where we use the Magnificent Seven theme, because what we were joking about is the Cowboy Single Action Division.
Right.
Oh, yes.
But
yes.
that people didn't realize it was an April Fool's episode and thought the stuff that we were passing along were honest-to-God rulings from IDPA. And then they called up IDPA to either complain or question it, which, if nothing, brought us into the focus of IDPA. If they didn't know about us before, they knew about us now.
And I don't think they didn't contact me. They posted, I think on Enos forum especially. This is not. Stop calling us. This is not the new rule book. And then one of the interesting comments on Enos was that was so obviously fake that it shows you who IDPA's audience is. and like I've got the coupon book that's like 4 inches thick. I'm holding that. That's here's the new IDPA rule book.
Yeah.
And then we get into the ridiculousness of the you can only have 12 rounds inserted in the individual belt loops in your Western belt, and stuff that you used to not be able to do, now you have to do, and it just
like
from the ridiculous
have to have knee pads.
you have to wear knee pads. You have to wear cleats. And people bought it, and then I just thought, okay, it already says happy April 1st. I mean, I
Right.
think that's how it
Right,
started.
right.
That's how the
Yeah.
episode started.
It was like
Yeah.
a clue you in.
And maybe people skipped the intro and
Could
missed
be.
that part. But
Yeah,
it was
maybe.
just at the time, and we got some credit for being clever. I mean,
Well, yeah, a lot of people actually were commenting about how we could keep such a straight face
Yeah.
over the.
because we went on and on. I mean, I think that was like a 40-minute episode.
Yeah.
But
and again, none of that was scripted, and we just let it roll and
Yeah.
just wherever it went. So yeah.
So that was that was a good episode. And then Larry's
So the
experience.
other one, yeah. So Larry did an episode on taking his RO certification exam.
Right, which is an annual 10-question exam, 2 parts,
Right.
like 20 possible whatever answers, and
At which
I
point
came at
we
it
heard
from the-
USPSA.
I came from the angle of we're going to educate our viewers and show here's what it takes to certify. And I even mentioned, like, who's going to come back to this 9 months from now and see if their question is on this episode so they can cheat on their exam, and I just figured it shouldn't be that big of a deal. Well, I guess maybe we should have asked permission first, because that went straight to the director of NROI, and we got an email from Troy saying take it down immediately. And so
Yeah.
that episode, whatever number it is, a couple of years ago,
It
is
lasted for
no
about an hour.
longer
Yeah,
up
you
there.
can't
It was
find it.
yeah, it was up
And
for a
there's-
couple days, but
there's
there's
a gap in
a gap in the sequence
Yeah,
out there. It's
yeah.
from about, I don't know, what would you say, 2015 January or something like that.
Could be.
So
Yeah. There's the other one that you guys talked about. I'm not sure we should even talk about this. Should we talk about this?
I don't know what's it going to be.
The Rainier Arms one?
yeah, there was a little snafu in the Rainier Arms filming. And
you
there
have
was
to
a little
be
segment that
specific.
got edited out.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
and I think
right.
that's the case. Like I had a situation where I was going. I mean, anytime you've got I guess I'm gonna have to. I don't want to spill the beans here, but anytime you're reviewing something and something goes wrong with it, I mean, like you read a road test on a car and the battery was dead. I mean, that stuff like that happens, but it doesn't look good for the product, even
Right.
if it's just
Right.
random
Right.
or an isolated incident. And so I think you've got, and I think that's one of the reasons I've been reluctant, and we've discussed it before. We shied away from product reviews
Right.
that were of a specific product. We would say, I've used a lot of Safariland gear, and Safariland gear is really good. And I think that is more as valuable if somebody's looking for holsters, say, as saying, this holster is the greatest one there's ever been. And if you have an issue or a glitch with it, it's like, okay,
Yeah.
do I feel bad for reporting it because they were nice enough to give me this
right,
cool thing to
right.
review? Or do I just go, well, you've
Give
put
me-
it out there and
yeah.
it's my job to
Yeah.
review it,
Yeah.
And so that was one of the other things I think we never really wanted to get into that product review as a central part of the show.
Yeah, and it's actually you mentioned that, which is kind of something that we a little bit got involved in from the Shotgun Sports, and I'll make this very brief. But in the very beginning of the program, which we pretty much stuck to through the whole entire time, is that we basically, the only thing that we talked about is things that we used and we endorsed, and we didn't care if somebody paid us to do it or not. We used it, and it's stuff, all stuff that we believed in. And then after we did the episode on clay target throwing machines, we were approached by Mech. And Mech said, hey, we'd like to send you a machine and let you look at it. And I told him, that's fine, but, this is going to be a completely unbiased review, and we're going to state the positives and the negatives with it. And we did exactly that. Generally speaking, I love that machine. In fact, it's of all the people at the gun range, they love that thing. And then Atlas saw that, and they wanted to do the same thing. They wanted to put a machine into our hands and let us use it. And the same thing, I told them, it's okay, this is going to be an honest review. We're going to talk about all the things that we like, and if there are things that we don't like, we're going to talk about that too. Mm-hmm. So from that standpoint, we have done reviews, which kind of deviated from we're using it, and these are the things that we believe in.
Right.
To a little bit of, somebody's approached us and they'd like us to review their stuff. But again, we've stated to them or told them up front, this is not going to be a biased review. If there's something wrong with it or something that we feel can be improved, we're going to mention it. Yeah. And I think that's one of the things that have really brought validity to the program. And
Yeah,
so the
most everything we review, we've paid our own money for.
Yeah.
I mean,
You wrote
almost
the review
everything.
on the Square Deal B.
Yeah.
How long had you been loading on it before we did the episode?
Must have been 6 years.
Yeah, I mean, I have two of them that I've been loading on for probably close to 15 years.
Right.
And so, I followed the episode with interest just because, that's the press that I use every day, or every month anyway.
Yeah, and I was surprised when you said, "Hey, I learned something." Like, really?
Yeah. And so I think that's the kind of product review I think that makes more sense.
Yeah.
I've been using this for 10
Right,
years,
right.
and these are my experiences.
Right.
Rather than here is a single example of something of which there are going to be thousands, and I put X number of rounds through it, or I loaded this, and this is what happened to me. And I guess if you have 100 different people doing that, you still can come to a consensus.
Yeah.
But it just seems like having individuals test
More
individual
depth.
items.
Yeah.
That I don't know that you really get a really good view of what it is that's being tested, or
Yeah,
whether it's
that's
going to
true.
perform or not.
Yeah. So I was going to comment the final thing in terms of getting sort of into trouble, which
We like to do.
which came for me.
Yeah.
When we did the target setting episode, we got a lot of comments and questions, if you will, on one of the Shotgun forums, which pointed out basically that target setters are not allowed to compete for score under NSCA rules.
Well, that's the idea that they've got some kind of an advantage.
They
Yeah.
somehow have an advantage, and therefore they're not eligible for awards or what's called punches or whatever the case may be. And that is a true. It is a policy of the NSCA, such to the point that I've done a couple episodes on I think it was on volunteering, and I pointed out that this is NSCA's policy. And as such, or because of that, I've decided not to renew my NSCA membership, basically as a point made, and of course I'm sure they don't care. But the thing is that they are effectively punishing people who volunteer. So just as this is a question I put out, I think, on our Facebook channel, and I said, effectively, if IDPA or USPSA developed a policy that said that if you were involved in stage setup or stage design or whatever, that you would not be eligible for awards, and you were basically shooting for no score, what would you do? And people came back and said, I wouldn't volunteer.
Right.
And then it turned out into, where did you guys hear about this policy?
And then everyone thought that was coming down the pipe.
Yeah, and it's like, this is not the April Fool's IDPA.
Right, exactly. I forgot about that. But yeah, that was the reaction.
It was like going, oh, Jesus,
why are they doing this to us?
It's like, I'm not going to volunteer him. I'm not going to do anything. And I was like, no, people, this is, I'm just making, like, if there was a question, what would you do? Because in NSCA's perspective, they think it's perfectly fine to go and penalize people for volunteering.
For working on their own time.
Right, where in USPSA or IDPA, they understand that if it wasn't for the volunteers, they would have nothing.
Right.
So anyway, point being is that I dumped my NSCA membership. I'm now shooting as Hunter class, which means you're not eligible for awards or anything anyway, so fine. They can stick the target course setter title on me, and we're not losing anything.
When you said they can stick, I'm just like, oh, what is he going to say?
Yeah. So anyway, that was kind of where I got into trouble over the years. But anyway, but where I was going to segue is at two other ideas of things that we kind of wished had happened over the series of the program. And you mentioned about Dylan, and Larry mentioned about Dylan, and I use Dylan also. I kind of wish, in terms of what we might have been able to achieve in terms of sponsorship over the years, is a few various sponsors. Now, Dylan seems like a natural for us because we all use Dylan regardless, no matter what. Yeah. Your episode on the Square Deal B has literally become like the industry gold standard out there. Everybody is like, that is like the best thing I've ever seen in terms of in terms of setup and how to dial it in.
I was going to say, if we're going to talk about our top episodes or favorite, that one stands out to me because I get so many questions or so many thank yous. It's on a monthly basis. I'm clicking on a comment and it takes me right to that episode. I'm like, oh, that one, yeah. So
yeah. And you've been using Dylan. I've been using Dylan. I did the whole entire series on the SL900, where I basically documented my experience with that, the design changes that I've made. I have had numerous people ask me for assistance on it. People have gone out and bought the press because of the videos that we've done, because of recommendations, because of the design changes that we've documented. And I'm just kind of surprised that Dylan didn't pay more attention to us, or so to speak, over the years. But it is what it is. On the other hand, even if they did sponsor us, there would be nothing that we were gaining out of it, because it's like, we need another press. We already bought their stuff anyway. So
I would have gotten in with the R&D to get the case feeder for the square deal.
Right. Yeah. So that, I would say, is kind of a disappointment. The other one I would say kind of is a disappointment is I wish we would have landed a sponsorship with some company who manufactured or produced shotgun shot. When you guys got the deal with Rainier in terms of our bullets, it's like, well, that's great. Too bad they don't produce shot, but anyway. So that was a miss from my standpoint. And the other one I thought would have been cool, and again, this is all stuff that I use, but Clay Duster wads, I've been using their wads forever. And in fact, I ended up talking to Ron Bugg, who is the owner of them, and approached him about just coming in the program and just talking about their wads and everything. And it got actually, he agreed to it, and I'm not sure exactly what happened. You see, they got busy or we got busy or whatever, and the whole entire thing just kind of fell through. But I've been using their wads forever, believe 100% in them. And again, it kind of goes back to we preach what we use. But yeah, it would have been cool if that would have been the case. And again, this is only from a personal standpoint, because I would have been basically sitting pretty for shot and wads. Speaking of which, somebody mentioned about how many number of times we said wads during a particular episode, but
how many times you said wads?
Yeah. It'd be the same.
Maybe make a drinking game out of that.
Music crowd, I think.
I wasn't counting.
Yeah. So anyway, what have been some of the, like, we'll just call it, things you wish would have happened over the years that we've done this that didn't?
Oh man, I mean, there's one of the things I really wish was that we would have tapped the 3-gun topic.
Yeah.
There was so much untapped content there.
Yeah.
And it was me that started saying we need somebody, and here's, I think Doug should be the guy.
Yeah.
He was running a major match in the Northwest, him and Scott. And I asked a few of my friends that are into 3-gun, hey, if we had a host on 3-gun, who should it be? And everyone said, oh, Doug, for sure.
Yeah.
And we brought him in, and there was just some logistical issues with, he lives a little further away, and, life gets busy and whatnot. And he did a great job, and but I still feel like there was so much more.
Yeah, that we could have done. Yeah.
Another one that we've been getting requests for over the last 6 or 8 months is the PCC division of USPSA. Hey, when are you guys going to do PCC? And I've been kind of going, yeah, I would love to, but I'm not into it. I don't shoot it. I don't have the money to go buy a PCC gun. We talked about bringing a few guys in, and it just kind of never happened.
Well, there's PCC and IDPA now, too. The new 2017 rule book.
Yeah, amazing.
We had a guy shooting a suppressed 9mm, it was SBR. Folding stock, the whole thing was about this long.
Dial that timer to sensitive.
The timer, he every 12 shot string, the timer would pick up between like 1 and 6 shots.
Okay.
We were thinking about holding it outside the ejection port so the cases would hit
whack the timer.
Because otherwise, we'd record a time. Like everybody was shooting with a pistol. Their time would be like 18 seconds, and he'd shoot. It was like 8 seconds. And I'd go back on the review and go, I only picked up 6 shots.
Just go ahead and double that. Yeah. No, that's something that I wish we could have done, and there were some guys that we had in mind to bring into the show to discuss the rules and the equipment and everything else. It's honestly a division I'm not a real fan of, and that's just not going to get that much into it, but just because clearly the most advantageous gun is an SBR, which is you got to jump through some hoops to get it, and I don't know that it's the right way to go, but whatever. It's popular, people like it. If you're shooting it, great, have fun.
So what about you?
Things that I was disappointed about.
No, just wish that you
we'd have pursued.
Yeah,
wish I had pursued.
Happened, or
I guess as the series has gone on, I went from shooting in 2010. I think when we started, I was shooting every Sunday, USPSA match every Sunday, one IDPA match a month at my club's matches. And then virtually for years, most of my vacations had revolved around traveling to matches out of state.
I mean, you and I went down to Rio Salado, and
went to Area 1 at Reno, Area 1 at Parma, and then pretty much not right as the show started, but a year or so after the show started, I just really cut back on the amount of shooting I did. And I'm at the point now where the only match I'm guaranteed to be at is my own club's IDPA match. And so, and there was a period of time there, coincidentally, before I was married, that I was shooting every Friday too. I was shooting an indoor match every Friday,
that up at Sam's.
USPSA match every Sunday, and then one Saturday a month at my club for IDPA. And now it's just like, okay, I shoot my club, I might shoot one other IDPA match. I've been shooting these ASI matches, which I find really attractive because I show up at 10 and I'm home at 1.
Yeah.
You know, my wife can still convince me I have time to mow the lawn or whatever. But I just really started cutting back on my shooting and taking on much more kind of administrative stuff. And so I think that's one of the reasons that my episodes tended to be more about rules and stuff, because that was kind of my reality in the shooting sports, went from being a shooter to being an administrator. And so that's why you started seeing stuff about becoming a safety officer and here's a rule from the IDPA book, because that was the kind of stuff that I was dealing with every day instead of draw and sight alignment. And so I guess, that just happens. Your life changes or whatever. But I guess if I could have done it differently, and if I had been more, if the show had started 5 years earlier, there would have been a lot more stuff. I think,
boy, would there? Yeah.
Match reviews and that kind of stuff that I think the show became kind of short on. And I think match reviews it's like magazine articles or something. I mean, how many match reviews do you really need?
Exactly.
Unless there's some useful kernels of information about techniques and stuff. It's just video of people shooting.
Yeah.
But that was part of kind of, I don't want to say a regret, but I was aware of the fact that very few of my episodes had any shooting involved.
Part of it.
It was talking about shooting, and we did get some nice feedback about that. But it was just the nature of the beast. I was much more a rules guy than I was a techniques guy.
I was kind of in the same boat with, in the last year or two, I've been shooting less. I really do plan to shoot more this year, but I can only do so many episodes on, hey, I shot carry optics again. Here's my gun, remember that? Let me show you how I did. So there's only so much that I can do, and I'm not a great trainer, and I don't train, and I don't practice, and I still don't have a membership at any club. And then there's not.
Maybe we should.
There's only so much. There's only so much I can.
Okay, he's fired.
He's fired. What the hell out of here. If that's all you can do, then.
So for me, that's kind of why. In my world, at least my contribution, that's kind of why it's been winding down as well. So.
Yeah. I would say the other sort of disappointment is we had some various ideas for episodes that we were thinking that would be really good.
The skydiving episode. That one, it never happened.
A lot of viewers ask us for episodes on bystand, on patterning and stuff like that. And they're all great ideas, but unfortunately, here we are. So anyway.
So fame and fortune. We already covered the fortune. What about fame?
Yeah, I was going to say from the flip side of things. Things that we're happy about.
I don't know if happy, but
I think. Personally, I'm really happy with the content that we put out there. I think we've done some really good episodes in terms of just educating the viewers of things. I'm really happy about that. I'm really happy or glad about the doors that have opened up and the people that I've met through the program. And I've had people come up to the range and specifically want to shoot there because of stuff that they've seen on the program, which I think is really cool that you literally have people go out of the way. I had one guy who came here from Ohio for his daughter's wedding, and he came up to the range and wanted to shoot with us because he's the stuff that he saw in the program. And then he since came back a second year later and same thing. So I've met a lot of really interesting people, great people, as a means of, or a vehicle through the program. And also I think we've got some really great sponsors. And I said before that with respect to Chris Hodgson, I mean, initially I just kind of like thought of Chris Hodgson as an association, but now I picture Chris Hodgson as a friend. I mean, it's a great relationship to people that you end up meeting on the program over the years. So, I mean, that's the sort of stuff that I'm pretty happy about in terms of the content that we put out. I think we've really put out some really good programs that have helped people out and have answered a lot of questions. And we received a lot of questions from people and assistants and whatnot, which I was going to say, and we'll probably say this again, but we're not going away from that standpoint. If you still have questions about stuff, the normal mechanism or means for contacting us are still open, and we'll be there. So anyway,
and to dial back just a second, I mean, as a testament to that statement that the good content we put out, you hear so much about anybody that puts themselves out on YouTube. There's 95% negative comments about everything.
Well, there
right?
is the one. I'd love to meet this one guy. Every single episode that we have, there is like one
somebody thumbs down,
and
right?
it's like so I refer to him as Mr. Thumbs Down guy.
Right,
so there's one guy out there, and I'd love to know who it is because it's.
But I'll say that, and all these times, I mean, we've hardly any negative comments. I mean, less than 1% of comments and questions and anything is negative. It's all been very positive. So. That's been nice. So I think it's a testament to the quality of the information we're putting out there.
Yeah.
So,
and you.
Well, when I alluded to fame and fortune, I was more thinking about recognition.
Well,
I was gonna
get there. We'll get there in that one.
Okay,
but if you want to go there now, we can do that.
Yeah. I mean, I agree that I feel like one of the things that has kept the show going for as long as it has is there's certain gratification in people saying, wow, that was a great episode. That was really useful. And if people were saying, I've seen this 100 times before, you guys are full of crap, then we probably would have shut it down a long time ago.
Right.
But when we started, I think the thing was that we had recognized that there really wasn't a whole lot of stuff on the internet about practical shooting. And now, I will look at an episode that we did. Like, I looked at something today, and I can't remember what the topic was. But I found like 50 other episodes of other people's stuff that covers exactly the same topic. And 5 years ago, I don't know that there would have been 5 episodes or 2 episodes.
And we've had actually people write and said that your program has inspired me to create a similar program, or things like that too. So
anyway, the segue that I had attempted was
this is the segment we're referring to as Caught in the Wild.
All right. And so within, I swear, the first month that this show had been on the air on YouTube, and I think initially it was YouTube and iTunes. And that was kind of it. I mean, we didn't have Facebook and whatnot. But I was stopped on the streets of downtown Seattle twice by people saying, "Hey, you're Rick from the PowerFactor show, aren't you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's me." And then I was thinking, is this going to happen every day? Am I going to be like a famous person where people approach me on the street? And it has literally not happened since. It happened twice in 2010, and it has not happened since. So all my fears about being, having my 15 minutes of fame, that was it. In 2010, I had my 15 minutes of fame, and now I'm just, I'm a nobody again. So
for me, it's happened a couple times. Cabela's, I'm at the gun counter, and someone goes, "Hey, you're that guy on that show." They might know my name, or they might not. I don't know. And in fact, it just happened a couple days ago at an indoor range, getting ready for a GSSF match, and a guy came up to me, and it seemed like he was kind of a new guy, kind of nervous, but he said, "Hey, I've done outdoor GSSF before, but this is the first time I've done the indoor league. Can you tell me kind of how it goes?" And I said, "Well, I've done it only a couple of times, but here's everything I know," and just kind of broke it all down. And I could see as I started talking, he kind of went...
He started to put the connections together.
"You're that guy." And then after I was done, explaining, "You're that guy from that show." Yeah, so... But Steve's got a really good one.
So I've got actually a couple of them, but the last one was pretty good. Shortly, again, like your situation, after the beginning of the program, one of the guys that I work with at my company's fairly large, his son was apparently watching YouTube videos and in a different room, and was watching one of our episodes and heard me talking, and the guy goes, "That sounds like Steve." And he goes in there, it's like, "That is Steve." So immediately the next day I get a email from him saying, "Yeah, my son was watching, your YouTube program or whatever, and and I heard your voice and so on, which I thought was
I
pretty
heard your
fun.
voice in my living room.
Yeah. One of the guys that I used to work with back in probably about 92 or 93 who had left the company, moved down to Texas. Hi, Arnold. Just out of the blue, out of nowhere, I get an email from him. It's like going, yeah, I saw your program that you guys are doing, which I thought was pretty funny. But the best one happened here this October. My wife and I were on a 10 or 12-day cruise, riverboat cruise down the Danube River in Germany, Austria, and Hungary. And we're sitting in the lounge, having an adult beverage or something like that. And the guy walks up and he says, "You wouldn't happen by chance be Steve from that YouTube channel PowerFactor, would you?" And it's like, yeah. And my wife just, at that point, it's like, oh my God, it's like we're here in Germany and you're recognized by a passenger on the boat. That was
10 time zones away.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. So hi, James, if you're watching the program.
Right on. That's awesome.
But I ended up, we had dinner with James and his wife numerous times after that, and it was just, he had commented about how he enjoyed watching the program and stuff that we, conveyed and everything, and stuff that he'd learned. So I thought that was pretty cool. That literally came out of nowhere. But I've gone back to people who have come up to the range and shot. A couple weeks ago, I had one guy I was watching an episode on the SL900 Dylan Press, and that isn't you by chance. I was like, no, that's my brother. So yeah, it's really funny. Running into people like that who either recognize you or recognize your voice or whatever, and so it's really. I don't think we really took into consideration just exactly how widespread the program would become, but it has really become very widespread over the years. I think there's a lot of people who are watching it, more than maybe what we even thought would ever happen.
Just to be pragmatic, I want to put this out there. This happens a lot in USPSA matches, right? Local matches. You go to the match and people go, "Oh, hey, Larry, can I just put this out there? Please introduce yourself," because I am so bad with names and faces. Someone will come up to me and just be talking to me, and I'm thinking, does he know me from the show? Or maybe we've shot together 10 times.
Yeah.
I don't know. Ruben, you're one of those guys. But now I know you. So, anyway, there's so many people that, act like they know me, and maybe they do and maybe they don't, but I'm just so bad with names and faces. So it'd be awesome if you would introduce yourself again in case, if we don't know each other that well. So.
Yeah.
Well, I think I was sitting like this. Are you ready? No. Larry and I should both be like this.
Seamless.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Segue.
Right. All right.
And then there was our favorite episodes.
So what was your favorite episode? Or episodes?
I'd say the one that and this is I'm gonna sound narcissistic, I suppose.
Really?
But the one that I've watched the most, that I thought was the most informative and best done of the episodes that I've done, was the IDPA Order of Engagement episode that we shot at Marysville. And it's pouring down rain. It's in December. And we had the camera that was focused on me, and then I was also wearing a hat cam. And so every time I would describe in order of engagement, like this is tactical priority, it would show me doing it, and then it would show my view of doing it. And then I would talk about this is tactical sequence, and you can do it this way, and I recommend you don't do it this way. And actually, IDPA headquarters sent out a request for instructional videos, and I sent it in, and I got a reply, "You are my favorite person in the world. This is so awesome." But it hasn't been posted.
They never
So
used it.
it's sort of like, this is like what we want, but this isn't really it, because it never showed up on there. But I would say that episode, I just thought, and again, without a script, it just seemed like it just flowed from this to this to this, and I just thought it looked good. It was, even though it was shot on a range that was active and you could hear gunfire in the background, I didn't think it really. Some episodes, I think we had real problems with audio in the first year.
That's another thing that you could bring up about all the audio issues that we had in the very early part.
But that was, I think that the Order of Engagement episode was my favorite.
Yeah. All right, Larry, go ahead.
Steve doesn't have a favorite.
Well,
he says
so
he
now
doesn't
that
have
you've
a
mentioned,
favorite.
I don't have anything specific at all. I've maybe retracted my position, but I'll let you go.
I don't know about favorite, but just notable. We mentioned my Square Deal episode just because it comes up a lot. We get a lot of questions and a lot of comments and a lot of, thank you for putting that up there. So that one kind of stands out to me a lot. The ones I refer people to a lot are the 2-part episode I did at Northwest Safe.
Oh,
You know, I'm a real huge advocate that, you know, you should have a gun safe, a good gun safe, to keep your guns locked up, keep them out of the hands of not only kids but criminals and everything else. And so I refer a lot of people to that. If they go, I got some guns, but I don't really have a safe, I don't really know where to put them, or I just got a cheap, tin can of a safe or a lock box. And I refer people a lot to that episode because I think I feel like I know, a fair amount about safes, or at least what to look for. And I feel like I had good enough questions to kind of keep the episode flowing. The other one I refer a lot of people to is the ones that you guys did about flying with guns. And anytime I've thought about maybe going to a major match and flying there, I pull that episode up.
That's a reference
To see, like, okay, well, what are you supposed to do? Because I've still never done it. I've still never taken a gun with me on a plane. And, apparently it's very easy to do, and there's
it can be.
rules are easy to follow, and I assume that still applies. I don't know if any rules have changed, but that was
There was talk
5 years ago.
There was
probably.
an expectation, I think, that rules would change after that shooting in Florida at the airport.
Well, it just happened.
Yeah.
In the last month.
Yeah. That
Yeah.
people expected, something's going to change.
Yeah.
But I think there was also a sense that, thankfully, that knee-jerkism isn't going to be as big of a theme as it has been maybe in this country.
It's funny you should mention the whole entire flying with guns, because last year at about this time I was flying down to Arizona and went shooting down there and brought my shotgun with me, and I knew I've been, since you and I have been through the whole entire thing, it's like, you gotta have a good case, you gotta have it locked, you can't get in the case, you can't pry it open, and you end up having to deal with that with them. So I knew all the rules in that, had a Pelican case, 4 locks on it, more than what I needed, and the 2 people that were in front of me who went through TSA both got rejected because why? They only had 1 lock on the case. At the end, they could pry it open and gain access to the gun. So I'm sitting there going, I'm in there going, well, I know I'm perfect.
Should have watched PowerFactor.
Yeah, I was like going, I know I'm not going to have any problems, but sure enough, like both people got turned away, and
the last
so
time
when I got into there, and the TSA agent was on there, and he's like going, well, I can see you know what you're doing. It's like, yeah, because I've been through this before. I know what the thing is. And the guy said, yeah, I feel really bad about turning them away, but that's what the rules say.
Rules is rules.
Yeah. So that's kind of funny. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's.
Okay, Steve.
So I would say I don't really have anything specific in terms of best episodes. I think there are quite a few episodes that we've done on shotgun stuff that are really unique. I mean, John and I have done some really good episodes on shotgun cleaning, which have really high hit
I'm
counts.
amazed when I check my email and I go, you want to know about cleaning a shotgun again?
I know.
Sometimes you
get a lot of comments on that, questions on that one.
And then the other one is where John came up with the idea of literally doing a teardown of the whole entire receiver, replace the springs, and that has never been done on video anywhere before.
Right.
So that's the only thing that's out there in terms of a reference. I'm surprised it probably doesn't have more hits, but then it's kind of one of those things where the type of people who are really interested in doing that are really a select few.
And then there's 20 different guns. People say, "Oh, can you do that for my gun?" It's like, well, I don't have that gun.
Right.
We would, but I don't have that
Send
one.
me your gun.
Right.
Yeah, so we've had that. It's like, can you do that for a Browning, whatever? It's like, well, don't have one of those, So unfortunately, it's not possible. So yeah, it's nothing specific. Again, I'm pretty happy with the episodes that we've done on the Dillon SL900 press, where I've kind of documented my experience with that. One thing that happened here really recently was the episode that we did on target color, which I thought was a great episode that we did. The funny thing is, somehow somebody tipped off the NSCA about that, and I happened to be going. They do like a weekly or monthly or whatever, like newsletter, and I'm looking through there, and the topic is like target color video, and I thought, wow, somebody else went out and did an episode on it.
Right.
And it's like, wait a minute, no, it's our episode. Yeah. So they sent out a broadcast of our episode, and then they did it on their Facebook channel. And then I've had, again, guys at the range just go, oh yeah, I saw the episode that you guys did, because they saw it through the NSCA publication and everything. So I thought that was pretty cool, because the NSCA picked up on and at least recognized the work that we had done. So that was kind of nice.
Cool. Cool.
Interesting that they didn't refer to the episode that we did on volunteering, where I stated my grief with them, but that's another story. So anyway, so nothing really specific, but I kind of mentioned this before, is that I'm really happy with the content that we put out there. My wife, who's a flight attendant, flies with a lot of pilots who are naturally gun enthusiasts, And it's funny because I'll end up asking her a question about something because they know that she's an active shooter. And I said, yeah, you ought to tell them to go off and watch PowerFactor show because there's a lot of good information there. And I've told a lot of people that. I was like, go back and look at the episodes that we've done because literally everything, seemingly the topic that you can come up with, we've probably covered at some point.
Go to the website, use
Yeah.
the search function,
Yeah.
take you right to it.
Yeah.
Any topic you can think of.
Right. And it seems like we've done them all.
Sure
So,
does.
Anyway. So,
Well,
It's the end. Is that it?
Brent, it might be. So I would like to thank a few people here. I would like to thank Caleb for coming on the program very early in the infancy of the program, because I think he really added an interesting perspective to the program.
Well, and I think he had already been on Top Shot.
Right.
He was a kind of a
known
recognizable
known,
person.
yeah.
And I think, I remember when we were going to start the show, one of our local shooting buddies is a grandmaster, and we wanted him on the show
right.
just to give us that legitimacy
cred.
of if we give you a
Credibility.
tip,
Yeah.
this is the guy you can be a grandmaster if you use that kind of a tip.
Right.
And when he didn't come on the show, I think, I always shied away from shooting tips. And if you'll notice, episodes that have shooting tips about how to excel feature Steve, and tips that feature how not to screw up feature me. and that was because I just felt like, well, okay, if you want tips how to become an A-class shooter, who's going to watch that? It's like tips from the masters. I want to be a master. So the only way you can do that is if a master gives you the tip. And I thought Caleb kind of gave us that legitimacy.
Right.
That people,
Right.
oh, here's a recognizable face. I know this guy's a top shooter, and his perspective, I thought, added to the show.
And he was an
Yeah.
IDPA master as well, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I thought that kind of early on gave us a little bit of that, what
Sure.
we needed.
Right.
Absolutely.
I'd also like to thank Doug for coming on and doing the 3-gun segments because, like Larry pointed out, is that we had tons of people all the time. Oh, you guys ought to do stuff on 3-gun, and neither Rick nor I, and you weren't involved with the program at that time, and did 3-gun at all.
Well, I had done
Yeah,
it,
so,
but it had been years ago.
right, yeah.
I didn't know
but it really
the
wasn't
rules
the state
and stuff.
But it
Yeah.
also what you were using wasn't the sort of the state of the art I would refer to in terms of 3-gun.
You mean the
I'm
M1
sorry.
carbine? The
Yeah.
M1 carbine is
Yeah.
not the hot ticket for 3-gun?
I think possibly not.
Well,
yeah.
10 years ago.
Maybe 50 years ago.
Oh,
So thanks to Doug for coming on
Sure.
and all the contributions that you've had. And again,
And his episodes had some massive numbers of hits.
my God, the
too.
stuff that you did on scopes
On the
was
scope
unbelievable.
selection, I mean, very popular stuff.
Yeah.
I wish we could have tapped more
Yeah,
of that. but-
yeah, definitely. So thanks to you,
So
Doug.
definitely thanks, Doug.
And then also to John for coming on and being my partner in crime, so to speak, in terms of the shotgun sports and stuff. I shoot with John still all the time. But John did a lot of really interesting gunsmithing stuff. And I mean, just, content. We probably, be cool if we could have expanded upon that more. But I think to a certain degree, it's sort of a niche audience. There's going to be some people who are really interested in that, and the other ones who just, are not.
Right.
I like to put on the front strap checkering episode. And
Yeah,
just kind of sit back on the couch. Man, those lines are so straight.
Yeah. So yeah, John was a great contribution to the program. In my opinion, more so from the shotgun side of things, because again, he and I get along great, and John, John and I and Larry to a lesser extent, but have been shooting all together for a long time, and you, John, and I were involved on the Northwest section, basically board of directors, so
Right.
to speak.
Yeah.
So we've got a lot of history going back, perhaps maybe 20 years at least.
Well, back to the thrown gun anyway.
Whoa, we don't want to bring that up, but yes. To the throne.
We could do an episode about that. This is the next to the last episode.
Yeah, we'll tell you about the incident where somebody threw a gun downrange. Anyway, so there's that. The other person I'd like to thank, and this is probably going to come off sounding kind of strange.
Your wife. Oh, sorry. Okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So I'd like to thank my wife, but then, how do you, that's like, thanks, Rick. That's like, have you quit beating your wife? So the other person I'd like to thank is kind of like the person who got me into, so to speak, internet podcasting, was Bob Main with the Handgun World podcast.
Bob, yeah.
Before we did PowerFactor, I came on Bob's program.
Right.
I was on Bob's program at least a couple of times.
Yeah, you and I actually did a couple of segments on there.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
But before that, I did quite a few segments with Bob, and it kind of got me introduced to the whole entire doing interviews and discussion and stuff, this, that, and the other thing about shooting and everything. So I want to thank Bob for that opportunity because at that point I was like, who the hell is he? Of bringing me on his program and allowing me to talk about a lot of the stuff that I was really passionate about back then. And unfortunately, when his program was going, we started up and doing our stuff. But he had me come on and fill in for an episode on his behalf when he was on vacation or whatever. And I was fully doing the whole entire shotgun thing at that point. So I think I actually did a discussion on burnout, which
I think you did, yeah.
Which was fairly relevant because I was going through that in terms of USPSA shooting, but I also brought up a lot of points about how to try to avoid it, which I thought was fairly good. So anyway, so thanks to you, Bob, and you're still rolling, from what I understand.
And Bob was the inspiration for my intro sequence about ejecting the cartridge and catching it in the air.
Yeah.
He was saying, we should never do that. That's just a terrible idea. And I said, well, it's really easy. Look, just
Yeah.
I was watching some guy the last match who was trying to do it, but it was catching on the ejection port every time. So he'd rack the slide and reach up,
and it wouldn't be there.
And go straight to the ground.
Yeah, and I just go,
Yeah, I still listen to Bob. Bob's a good guy. So.
Yeah.
I would like to thank my wife. No, I would like to thank my wife. I mean, that's one of the things I've commented. I think on many episodes where I've said before I was married. ... And I've been married now for more or less pushing 15 years. I've been with my wife, and she is at the point now, I think, where she wishes I would go back to the day of being out of the house once every weekend. I mean, there's it's just like for Christmas, I don't shoot in the rain anymore, and I've mentioned that before. One of the reasons that I shoot is because I really enjoy it, and standing out in the rain for 5 hours isn't enjoyable. So she bought me a pair of these really expensive waterproof pants. And I just thought,
is this a hit?
Yeah, this must be a hit. It's like, Rick,
go
Saturday
play.
afternoons, get the hell out of the house. So,
Right.
And I don't think she wants me to, I could wear them, I guess, when I mow the lawn. But, so, I do want to thank the wife. You have to have a certain amount of support at home to do anything, I think, enthusiastically, whether you like to shoot or ride motorcycles or, blow things up, whatever it is you do for fun or for work. There's got to be some support at home. So I do thank my wife. She's not a shooter. She's not a huge advocate of gun rights. She's got that kind of Midwest, big city, Chicago view of gun rights and gun violence, and we still get along. She's, accepts what I do, and so, it is nice to have that support at home.
Yeah,
So I guess I have to thank my wife now, or else I'll look like a heel, right? So
You look like the heel.
thanks
of
for
the
my
group.
wife for
Yeah.
letting me out of the house to do this and go play, and for the voice on our intro. But we should also thank our producer's wife for letting us crash their house all the time and crash their dinner and all that when we film over there.
And our
So-
producer, actually, also,
Yeah, of
because
course.
there's been many times that he's tried to, he's shifted his
Is he
schedule.
gonna? Oh, there he is.
Yeah.
There it is.
You're actually on video there.
Yeah, he has
your face
to
there,
what, 6 years?
Yeah.
Whatever the amount is.
So, and also thanks to our sponsors, of course. Shane Hall, thanks a lot. The episode we did down there at Rainier Ballistics was a lot of fun. That was the first time I met Shane and was familiar with their product already. I'd been using it in open guns prior. I know when I first came onto the show, we were all talking about black bullets, Molly bullets, but
Master Blaster.
Master Blaster back in the day,
Yeah.
but truthfully, when it came to shooting open, this stuff just gummed up the comp so bad, and I was already a fan, a customer of Rainier, and really, really appreciate them supporting the show for all these years. All the sponsors, we've already talked about Chris Hodgson. Thanks a lot for the friendship with Chris and at least making powder available to us, right? Back when powder was not even available, we were able to bring you guys episodes from the range, thanks to Hodgson. And Taylor Freelance made good friends with Robin Taylor, and Rick, of course, through ASI. Robin Taylor's a good friend of the show as well. So
Yeah, I would to reiterate your comments about Hodgson powder. Chris is probably of all the people that we come to know in terms of sponsors, the one I'd probably like to thank the most, primarily because Rainier doesn't make shot.
Wow.
plated shot. Would that be awesome?
Yeah. But I also want to make one comment here. Chris had mentioned during the interview that we did that he would try to get out a pound of the new IMR Red, and we got that. So when I get a chance, I'm going to test it out and load up a bunch of shells with it and run it and see how it works out. And then I'm probably going to respond or comment back on our Facebook channel about my experience with that. So that information is coming. But again, hey Chris, thanks again for everything you've done for us. We really definitely appreciate it.
And one last one for me. We don't get a ton of free stuff on the show, but the trigger from GlockTriggers.com. It's just
You got a trigger from GlockTriggers.com?
I have a trigger from GlockTriggers.com. So
Wow.
I wrote to them, and they said, yeah, sure. Like, you can review our trigger on your show. And
Yeah.
so one of the only freebies basically.
Yeah. Well, I got the camera hammer.
So
Yeah.
you got the camera hammer.
Camera
There
hammer.
you go.
I mean, we did do some product tests.
Like I said, I wrote to the speed sites and tried to use my international fame as credentials
Did
to
it
get some
help?
free sites. Not at all. It helped me get an extended free trial, which I have paid full retail for those, and
nice.
and they're
You like
fine.
them?
They're fine. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're good.
Yeah, good.
So, but yeah. Anyway, so thanks to those guys. It was a few
I was
products I
going
got
to
to
say, speaking
review.
of opening doors, my claim to fame through PowerFactor got me into the Colt Factory Tour, which I thought
Oh yeah, that was
that was really cool.
that was
nice.
yeah that was
that
had
was
to
a
be a
great
big
trip.
highlight for
Yeah,
you.
it was.
Yeah.
It was also especially a big highlight when I was walking around where the Winchester factory was, and security came out and basically told me to leave the property. That was a
Well,
big
you went to
highlight.
the Remington.
Yes, I went to Remington
UMC or whatever,
Bridgeport. Yeah,
Bridgeport.
Bridgeport, and didn't get out of the car.
Now, did they finally tear that whole
neighborhood?
thing
Yes,
down?
it's been leveled.
They weren't able to turn
Well,
it
I'm
into
not sure if the
condos
shot
or
tower.
retail
No,
space.
the
or-
building has been leveled. I don't know if the shot tower has been leveled. My guess is it probably has, because considering the neighborhood it was in, it was pretty bad.
Yeah. That's too bad.
Yeah, it is. But in any rate.
Okay. That's it.
And anybody you'd like to? I guess you've been there.
I don't have any specific thank yous. I mean, I like, everybody who's been on the show and everybody who's been involved with the show. I haven't run into anybody in the shooting sports. I don't think that I would go, that guy's a jerk, or they're ungrateful or unhelpful or ungenerous, And so everybody that we run into, whether it's as a sponsor or as people that recognize us on the street, or, it's been a real pleasure all the way around.
It's been a positive experience all the way
Yeah,
around.
absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, well, on that
With
note,
that.
I want to thank all of you for watching for the last 6 years and your support of the program. It's been great to meet a lot of you. That's definitely been one pleasure from my standpoint, and I've had a lot of people invite me to come shoot with them. And in fact, here in a couple months, I'm going down to meet one of our viewers to go shoot with them down in Arizona. I'm going to go shoot at Rio Salado. In fact, the last time you and I were down at Rio Salado, they were just putting in the Sporting Clays range down there.
Oh, when we were down there for the single stack? Wow,
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
12 years ago?
No, it wasn't that
14
long.
years
It was
ago?
about 2006 to 2007
Okay.
or so.
Well, that's 10,
Yeah. 10 years ago,
that's been
yeah.
a while ago.
Yeah. So I'll get that opportunity. So
Cool.
anyway, as I mentioned, we're still here. If you have any questions about, anything for what it's worth, go ahead and feel free to fire us off an email at powerfactorshow@gmail.com. There's the website, powerfactorshow.com.
And the
There's-
Facebook page.
Yeah, go for it, Rick.
I still don't know.
You are posting
There's a
on
slash.
Facebook.
There's a slash and
So
PowerFactor.
this is good. Rick started out knowing absolutely nothing about Facebook. I mean, and like case in point, doesn't even know where the program exists. And then all of a sudden he discovers Facebook, and every day there's a post by likes, comments, something by Rick, and yet you still don't know.
Just type in Power Factor Show in the little search, and it'll
Pretty
take you
sure
right
you're
there.
gonna find
cheap.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. That's how I get there.
Power Factor Show, sorry,
Facebook.com
Facebook.com/PowerFactorShow.
That's
Yeah,
it.
that will
Okay.
get you there.
YouTube.
Yeah. I don't know if I left anything out. Yeah, YouTube's the other way to find us. So, again, Okay.
Again, thanks a lot, everybody.
Play safe, do good things, don't
Sounds
do
good.
bad things.
And keep them in the 10 ring as.
Yeah, keep them in the tongue.
Ah, yes.
All right.
And I recommend that you keep them in the 10 ring.
Thanks again, everybody. And we'll see you down the road.
That's all, folks.